I so worry about this country, don't you? This religious madness that is killing our future, leaving us dangerously short of electricity. Can you believe it in a country like this? And why? We can't use uranium. It's evil. We shouldn't use coal. That's evil too. And now gas, also evil. In fact, Origin Energy has now said it's bailing out of its plan to frack for gas in the giant Beetaloo Basin in the Northern Territory. It's selling out to a company called Tamboran, even though that means taking a loss of up to $90 million. Wouldn't want to be an investor there. Now, Origin says, yes, it wants to go green and it wants to bail from gas. Now, we've got green-tinged governments looking set to crack down even on gas at any time, thinking, wrongly of course, global warming could destroy us. No fossil fuels. So, we now have an Australian company selling this huge energy source to another company that's got 80% of its backing from foreign investors, America, Britain. So we have another energy asset in Australia in foreign hands because we're too superstitious about gas. I mean, how mad do you have to be? Joining me is David Littleproud, Federal Leader of the Nationals Party. David Littleproud, thank you so much for your time. What do you make of this decision by Origin Energy?
Well, it's frightening. They've lost their corporate courage to stand up to activists at their AGM, and what they're also saying now is they're looking at their other tenements, and what worries me is that most of those tenements are in my own electorate, where coal seam gas has been developed in the Strat Basin and done quite successfully. We're seeing that these companies are being frightened by activists that turn up to their AGMs rather than looking at the science, looking at the physics. And in fact, if you want to look at the science, you want to look at the physics, you only have to look and listen to the Australian energy market operator who tells us that this myth that Chris Bowen is running around, this perception that he's saying that renewables will be able to do it all, is false. They will tell you that. You need this thing called firming, and firming can only come in our energy market through things like coal and gas with carbon capture storage. And thank God that Madeleine King has shown some courage against Chris Bowen and started to outline areas for carbon capture storage, one of which will benefit the Beetaloo Basin and allow that to be developed, but also for coal. And then obviously we also as Nationals are proud that we brought the Liberals with us on looking at small-scale modular nuclear into the future. But this is a myth to think that you can run away from gas. Renewables and batteries cannot do it all. And that is not the National Party. That's not anyone other than the Australian energy market operators saying that you need firming. Otherwise, if you put all your energy eggs in one basket, you have a big problem. But now what we've also got is we're seeing that these domestic supplies have been constrained because we haven't had states that have the courage to actually develop them. And hats off to the Northern Territory for having a crack on Beetaloo Basin, because there was only Queensland before that, which has all gone export, that if we're going to push domestic prices down, we need domestic supplies. But sadly, an international company's swooped in, seen the benefit, and will help develop this, and hopefully with Santos. I understand Santos will continue in Beetaloo, and it's important now we support them with carbon capture storage and make sure that we have firming in our energy market well into the future, and that Madeleine King continues to stand up to Chris Bowen. She's the only one in the Labor Party. She's taken over from Joel Fitzgibbon. She's at least showing some common sense and standing up to this madness that's going to put all our energy eggs in one basket.
You're right to point out Madeleine King, the Resources Minister. Seems to be a fault line between her and you know this Chris Bowen, the Energy and Global Warming or Climate Change Minister. Boy, oh boy, do I hope that Madeleine King wins. And you're also right to say the weakness of our energy companies are not fighting against this global warming extremism. By the way, David Littleproud, you've seen the amazing outpouring of love and gratitude for the Queen. Now, the thing about her is that she never let on what she really thought on political issues. She stepped back. She knew her job was not to take sides. She had to represent everyone and be the figure of unity. And as we now see, she certainly was. I mean, you look at the outpouring of love there. So does it surprise you to see our Prime Minister, a Republican, actually hope that the new King Charles uses his position now to be a global warming activist? Here is the Prime Minister on the weekend.
From my perspective, what I said is that I'd be very comfortable with the King expressing views about the importance of climate change.
And it would be quite proper, in your view, for him to continue to make it clear that it's a concern in his mind?
Well, if he chose to do so, then of course that would be a matter for him, but I think that should be respected if he does choose to do so.
I find it bizarre, David Littleproud, to see a Republican like Anthony Albanese suddenly wanting an unelected king to start acting like a politician simply because they share the same political cause.
Yeah, I think the King will take his own counsel on this, and he's made it very clear publicly that he will follow in the steps of his mother, a great servant leader of the globe and of the Commonwealth, and one in which I think that was a fitting finale to what was 70 years of leadership to the Commonwealth and to Australia. I think you'll see that the King will take his lead from his mother, not from Anthony Albanese, and I think it's appropriate for the institutions that he now represents and now leads, that he lives up to that standard in which his mother has set. I think it's important that the Crown, particularly the King, in this respect, make sure that he respects those institutions and that way in which his mother has kept herself separate from the public discourse of debate on a number of issues. And I think it's important he continues to do that, and I have every confidence the King will.
Yeah, but what a hypocrite, Albanese. Want to be a Republican and suddenly let's have a king just take powers onto himself. You've also had the Albanese government wear face masks in Parliament, every one of them like a tribe, as a kind of mask theatre. Can you explain why the Prime Minister in London, talking to people in closed rooms, didn't bother at all with face masks?
Yeah, well, look, I'm all for personal choice and personal responsibility, but I think probably it goes back to more style over substance, and you only have to go back to our Parliament where all the Labor members came in with masks, and the Teals. And then, funnily enough, we turned up to the Job Summit, which I went to, and there wasn't a mask in sight, and there was just as many people running around in the Great Hall. In fact, there was more people running around the Great Hall over those couple of days than what there was in Parliament, with less distancing, social distancing. So, look, I all for people who might be crook to wear one and worried about getting crook wearing one, but it should come back to personal responsibility. I think it's more style than substance. I think we've got to learn to live with this thing. We are, and I think it's time for us to move on. But don't let a good picture get in the way of a good opportunity to push a case.
Just spare us the theatrics, spare us the hypocrisy. It's just crazy. David Littleproud, thank you for your time.